Hello everyone and welcome back to Fliks Picks, your streamlined Overwatch League analysis and predictions channel. Now, good news everyone! I have the kill and death averages for this video, as well as the much nicer last 9 game slides. So it's all stations go on this end, some fresh juicy stats straight from the farmer's market. Now, it's been made known to me that I've actually been calculating these kill death averages incorrectly. Now, the individual kills and deaths, they've been fine. It's just I've been messing up the averages part. There's not to worry though, because it's all been corrected, so don't get confused when you see the averages, because they might look a little bit different to what they were last week. Now, with that out of the way, thank you for tuning in to part 2, guys, as I cover the second half of week 4. Day 3 will start off with the Boston Uprising fighting the Shanghai Dragons. They will be fighting it out on Blizzard World, Hanamura, Oasis, and Dorado. Now, the map stats show Boston with a 3-win, 1-tie, 3-loss record on Blizzard World, while the Dragons run a 2-5. Hanamura looks pretty bleak for both teams, Boston running a 1-8 and the Dragons running 2 ties and 6 losses. Oasis looks great for Boston with an 11-4 record, while the Dragons run a not-so-great 1-10. Finally, Dorado, where Boston have a 4-5 record to the Dragons 2-7. If we go to Nepal, it's 4-7 for Boston and 0-10 for the Dragons. The team stats for Stage 4 show Boston averaging 5.38 kills per game and 6.98 deaths per game, bringing them a team average kill-death ratio of 0.77. The Shanghai Dragons average, on the other hand, per game is 4.37 kills and 6.76 deaths, giving them a team average kill-death ratio of 0.64. When these teams have faced off before, it's been Boston walking away with the win all 3 times. As for their last 9, Boston have won 2, while the Dragons are yet to win any. I spoke about both of these teams in part 1 for this week. Boston are slowly getting there and finding their feet this stage, and the Dragons are continuing to unimpress, to the point where it's just not cute anymore. Look, I'm not going to get into this game too much because you, the community, and myself are pretty damn sure Boston are going to win here. I'm calling 90-10, the community is calling 85-15. If Boston doesn't win, it's going to be more of a reflection on them than the Dragons. So let's just see how it all plays out. Game 2, we will see the Florida Mayhem taking on the Dallas Fuel. They'll fight it out on Blizzard World, Horizon, Lunar Colony, Lijiang Tower, and Dorado. As for the maps, even for both teams on Blizzard World, each team running 2-6. Horizon Lunar Colony sees the Mayhem running 2 wins, 1 tie, and 5 losses, while the Fuel run a 4-2 record. Lijiang Tower sees the Mayhem on a 2-5 and the Fuel on a 4-7. And Dorado has both teams dropping the map 6 times, with the Mayhem winning 3 times to the Fuel's 2 times. If we end up on Nepal, we can see the Mayhem have a 4-8 record to the Fuel, who have a 2-7 record. As for the team stats this stage, on average per game, Florida are running 5.59 kills and 8.3 deaths, giving them a team average kill-death ratio of 0.67. Dallas Fuel, on the other hand, are averaging per game 6.54 kills and 6.13 deaths, giving them a team average kill-death ratio of 1.06. When these teams have faced off before, it's the Mayhem who have walked away with the win 2 times to 1. As for their last 9, the Mayhem are winless, while the Fuel have 4 wins. Both of these teams have improved a lot this stage, even with some injuries on the side of the Mayhem, but I'll be straight with you and say that I think that this is the Fuel's game. Their performance against London, who I believe is a stronger team than Florida, on these maps minus Dorado, was so dominant, I just don't think Florida are going to stand much of a chance. The Mayhem had some great games last week, but they were bested by Houston, and Dallas has a similar skill to them, so that's why I'm pretty sure that this is the Fuel's game. I'm not the only one though, the community is narrowly calling in favour of the Fuel, 53-47. I'm just a little bit more decisive with a 70-30. The Mayhem by no means are going to go down without a fight, but I think the Fuel are going to be ready and well armed for that fight. Game 3 will be Fliks' series to Overwatch, as it is the Philadelphia Fusion against the Seoul Dynasty. They will be facing off on Kings Row, Hanamura, Oasis, and Dorado. Now, the maps are pretty hotly contested between these two. Kings Row sees Philly on a 3-4 record and the Dynasty on a 3-5 record. Hanamura has Philly on a 7-5 record and Seoul on a 4-6 record. Oasis sees the Fusion running a 7-8, while the Dynasty double their wins and losses 8-4. And finally, Dorado, where both teams have won 5 times, but Philly has lost 4 times to Seoul's 3 times. If we go to Nepal, it's a tiebreaker all around, 6-6 for Philly and 7-7 for Seoul. The team stats this stage show Philadelphia averaging per game 5.97 kills and 6.9 deaths, giving them a team average kill-death ratio of 0.84. Seoul, on the other hand, are averaging per game 4.95 kills and 5.7 deaths, giving them a team average kill-death ratio of 0.68. When these two teams have faced off before, it's been Seoul who has taken the win twice from Philly. As for their last 9, Philly have won 5 and Seoul have won 3. Now, currently, EQO is out on wrist injury for Philly and still was at the time of when I filmed this, which was the 5th of June. So they've got Shadowburn in his place for the time being. It's netting okay results, but it's not working very well against the higher tier teams. Their dedication to their tank lineup is also getting a bit of a mixed result. Now, that being said, Seoul aren't in a great place either. They've had a lot of roster and role changes, and the way they've been playing seems like they've burnt out a little bit and struggling to reinvigorate themselves. The whole Fled is the meta thing, that is well in the past, and he can't carry a team that is dragging their feet this much. The playoff implications are massive in this series as both teams are tied in the overall standings and they're each playing tough opponents earlier in the week. So whoever wins this stands a really good chance for the playoffs, and that's why I think it's going to be the series to watch for the day. Both myself and the community are backing Philly 60-40. The map history is really tight this series, and I think that even if EQO isn't back this week, I feel like the Fusion is still the better team, and they will get the better of Seoul. Now let's move on to the last day of the week. The first game of day 4 has the London Spitfire against the LA Gladiators. They will be facing off on Blizzard World, Horizon Lunar Colony, Oasis, and Watchpoint Gibraltar. Blizzard World sees London on a 3-5 record, and the Gladiators on a 7-win, 1 tie, and 1 loss record. London are running 7 wins, 1 tie, and 2 losses on Horizon Lunar Colony, while the Gladiators run a 5-4. Oasis sees a 5-10 record to London and an 8-6 record to the Gladiators. And then finally, Watchpoint Gibraltar, where London are running a 6-2 and the Gladiators are running a 2-4. If we go to a Game 5, Nepal shows London with a 7-5 record and the Gladiators a 9-1. The stats for this stage show London averaging per game 5.02 kills and 5.72 deaths, giving them a team average kill-death ratio of 0.87. The Gladiators are averaging per game 7.22 kills and 6.28 deaths, giving them a team average kill-death ratio of 1.15. In the past, these teams have twice gone to a Game 5, but the Gladiators have come out on top in all 3 of their matchups. As for their last 9, both London and the Gladiators have each won 6 games. Now, I've made no attempts to hide the fact that I think London are performing very subpar this stage, whereas I think the Gladiators are in the best shape ever, so I probably don't need to go into too much detail here. The Gladiators could have played better against Philly last week, but I think they were still beating themselves up over their loss to the Valiant. It's been a week, so they should have brushed that off by now, and I'm expecting them to be ready to fight back really hard to try and get into those playoffs. I think London is going to have to rely on their DPS to get a good result here, but their tanks just can't keep up with the Gladiators, which is ironic considering Fisher used to play for them and they just benched him the whole time. Now, I think the Gladiators' tanks will create a lot of space and put a lot of pressure on London to force the DPS into positional errors. That's why I'm thinking they need to go big to start off with in order to stop this counterplay from happening. Now, the community, for some reason, thinks only 56-44 to the Gladiators, but I think it's going to be a much more dominant 75-25. The Spitfire have had their moments this stage, but we really haven't seen them take flight, and I think they're going to remain grounded in this match. Game 2 will see the New York Excelsior against the San Francisco Shock, and this will be Fliks' series to Overwatch for the day. They will fight it out on Kings Row, Hanamura, Oasis, and Dorado. As you can imagine, the maps favour the XL quite a bit, 8-0 on Kings Row compared to the Shock's 4-3. They're still undefeated on Hanamura as well, with 7 wins and 1 tie, while the Shock run an even 4-4. A dominating performance from both teams on Oasis, 12-3 for New York and 8-4 for the Shock. And finally, Dorado, where both teams run positive, 7-3 for New York and 5-4 for the Shock. If we end up on Nepal, New York have a 9-3 record to the Shock's 5-7. Now the stats for this stage show New York averaging per game 6.31 kills and 4.3 deaths, giving them a team average kill-death ratio of 1.46. San Francisco are averaging per game 7.04 kills and 6.58 deaths, giving them a team average kill-death ratio of 1.06. In their last encounters, New York have won pretty cleanly both times. As for their last 9, New York have won 8, while San Francisco have won 6. Now, I would argue that the Valiant and San Francisco are the best looking teams in Stage 4, regardless of NYXL's dominant performance all season. And we saw New York get pretty complacent last week with their match against the Valiant, that they pretty much ended up throwing the series away. So I'm thinking that the upset here is very, very possible. I've said before how effectively the Shock are utilising their substitutions, and we can see a lot of passion and desire to win in every match they play, so they will not be letting any mistake by New York go unpunished. That being said, New York is still an amazing team. Everyone on their roster is incredible, and they just work together so well. But regardless of whether they win or lose, they're automatically getting 4th place overall in the season. I thought they would stick it to everyone and continue to decimate the competition, but they dropped the ball so hard last week. And even if they remotely start to let go of it this week, I think the Shock are going to take advantage and really exploit it. Honestly, I'm calling the upset here, 55-45 to the Shock, while the community backs New York 83-17. Look, the Shock right now are more than capable of beating New York. Even if New York try their best, it will be a close contest. Everyone on this squad is working really hard, and it is paying off. I really want to see this result, because if it happens, I think other teams will enter the overall finals with more hope that New York can be defeated, and it's going to be the Shock to prove that it can happen. Moving on to our final game of the day and the week, it's the Houston Outlaws against the Los Angeles Valiant. They will be battling it out on Blizzard World, Hanamura, Oasis, and Dorado. As for the map stats, 4-3 record for Houston on Blizzard World, while the Valiant run a 2-win, 1-tie, 5-loss record. Hanamura has both teams with the same record, 4 wins, 1 tie, and 3 losses. Oasis sees Houston with double their losses to wins, 5-10, while the Valiant are even 7-7. Dorado sees both teams winning 5 times, with Houston running 4 losses to the Valiant's 3 losses. If we end up on Nepal, it's positive for both teams, 6-3 for Houston and 9-4 for the Valiant. As for the team stats this stage, we can see Houston averaging per game 7.88 kills and 6.49 deaths, giving them a team average kill-death ratio of 1.21. The Los Angeles Valiant are averaging per game 5.05 kills and 5.96 deaths, giving them a team average kill-death ratio of 0.84. When these teams have faced off before, both of them share 1 win to one another. As for each team's last 9 games, Houston have 4 wins while the Valiant have 7 wins. Both of these teams are having a pretty positive Stage 4, and both are riding the high of 2 wins last week. Probably the Valiant more so, as they took down the Gladiators and the XL, while the Outlaws took out the Dragons and Mayhem. Houston are looking really spicy now that Ahan is in the mix. He was a beast last week, and the team looked to be having a blast with him around. The Valiant are also looking really polished. Their performance last week was much cleaner than in previous weeks, and it seems like they've got a really tight grip on the meta now. The Linksa Soon Widow battle is going to be really entertaining to watch. Both of them are high-class hit scans, and they've been performing really well this stage, so it will be fun to see who's going to come out on top. It was hard not to call this the series to Overwatch for the day because I'm thinking this will be a fun series to watch and it could go the distance. And at the end of the day, myself and the community are calling in favour of the Valiant, myself 65-35 and the community 54-46. I just think that the Outlaws will make more mistakes than the Valiant will, and they will punish any mistakes accordingly. The Outlaws are also a bit hard to predict because it really depends on their mood on the day as to whether they'll be playing well or not. If they win Blizzard World, it will be a great series. If not, then I think it will be pretty dominant from the Valiant. And that's it for week 4, everyone. I'll quickly recap. Fliks picks for day 3 are the Boston Uprising, Dallas Fuel, and Philadelphia Fusion. Fliks picks for day 4 are the LA Gladiators, San Francisco Shock, and LA Valiant. Thanks heaps for watching, guys and gals. Feel free to comment your thoughts on the games. Let me know what you think of my picks. There's only 1 week left of the regular season, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss my videos when they drop next week. Cheers again, enjoy the games, and I hope to see you next week.
Of course, being a better part of Valor, but I know the Valiant can smell it, Matt. They're so close and the blood's in the water. Burbo down, self-destruct being used by Coolmat and over the point, and Fate's just trying to hide behind the payload. Envy gets rid of Coolmat, he gets a second. Linkson falls down and Kareem now's just movement, trying to hang on desperately. No, Jake drops in. It's of course going to be the Transcendence for Monk.